Hey guys, I know it's been a bit of a dry spell in terms of new Avatar news lately, ever since the remaster debuted in theaters. So as we wait for the marketing for Avatar 2 to ramp up and give us new information, I thought it would be pretty interesting to go back all the way to the beginning. Not just the original movie, but before that. To the original 80-page scriptment that was called Project 880, written in 1995 before James Cameron even made Titanic, and to what would have been a very different movie to what we ended up getting with the final script of Avatar as we know it. But aside from character names being different and some different scenarios, it is also filled with a lot of information that fills in vital backstory for elements in Avatar that is otherwise unknown, as well as filling in what some might consider plot holes. So this is the start of a series breaking it down section by section and analyzing the differences between the two. So in this video, let's break down the first section, getting us to the moment before they first arrive on Pandora. The differences between the scriptment, which I'll call Project 880 from here on in, and the finished film are immediate from the first page. In Avatar, Cameron feels like he is rushing to get to the Na'vi, and we begin the movie off Earth. Project 880 spends time establishing Earth and the life of wheelchair-riding ex-Marine Josh Sully, the first of many name changes between Project 880 and Avatar. The opening page of 880 presents a very Blade Runner dystopia. Rainy, gray, filthy, and high-tech. The people are miserable and stink because of water shortages. The entire surface of the Earth is essentially industrialized, and there are even cities spread out across the moon. There are no longer national parks, and Yosemite is pointed out as a posh condo community. Josh lives in a megalopolis that takes up the entire eastern seaboard of the United States, and his cramped, prison-like apartment is located where North Carolina is today. This is the Earth of 100 years from now, and Project 880 takes its time setting this world up. Earth isn't just polluted with filth, as well as waste from nuclear terrorism and ugly, it's literally doomed. Extinctions have destroyed the planet's biodiversity, and its entire ecosystem has collapsed. Humans scrape by because they can turn sea algae into food, and most waterfront property has been turned into manufacturing for the protein farms, which could be something that comes into play when we start to explore the oceans of Pandora and the RDA's purpose with them. But this is an Earth where the people aren't just urban, they've completely and utterly lost touch with anything green. Keep this in mind, because this is one of the guiding elements of what makes Josh fall in love with Pandora. Josh's cramped apartment has a huge TV screen that takes up an entire wall. It's on this TV that we learn about the state of the environment in the wake of a news report about the death of the last lion outside of captivity. Then Josh watches a report on a massive fire on the Boston subway that asphyxiated 100 commuters. Soon we'll learn one of those commuters was his twin brother. In Avatar, Jake's twin brother was killed for the paper in his pocket, a robbery. It's an interesting change, probably made because it's easier to get across to the audience in a quick voiceover. In Project 880, the Boston fire is not an uncommon event, and it's an illustration of the world that is quickly going to shit in every conceivable way. Project 880 has Josh attending his brother's cremation. Tommy is cremated in a cheap cardboard box in a nondescript municipal building with no ceremony, really hammering home the ugly hopelessness of Earth. And we see him sitting down to dinner with two agents of RDA, the Resources Development Alliance. In Avatar, we see them come back to Jake in a flashback. Here we see their whole spiel. A spiel that really explains why Pandora is important. Everybody on Earth knows Pandora. It's been big news for years now. What these guys tell Josh that's really interesting and answers a huge number of questions from Avatar is that the RDA is chartered by the ICA, Interplanetary Commerce Administration, the future Earth trade regulating body. This charter allows RDA to exploit any moon, planet they want, but they must follow strict rules, chief among which is they are allowed a limited military presence and no weapons of mass destruction. There's more. Just like in Avatar, they want Josh because his brother has a Na'vi composite clone growing in a tank to be used in the Avatar program. In Project 880, it's explained that this is particularly a big deal because only 1 in 100 human to Na'vi composites actually take, making the Tommy Soli Avatar growing in a tank a very rare and very valuable thing indeed. And there's more. The Avatar program in Project 880 isn't just a meet and greet program. Because interstellar travel takes massive amounts of energy, it essentially costs $1 million for every pound of matter flown to Pandora. RDA is hoping to train the Na'vi as an indigenous workforce, saving them money on ferrying people back and forth. They want the Na'vi to work in Pandoran refineries. It's cheaper to refine the metals they mine on site, making them weigh less before shipping them back home. That's a pretty huge wrinkle to the Avatar program in general, and it makes the reasoning for spending so much money on it a little bit more clear. In Avatar, it feels like a PR stunt, which is essentially weird as there's no PR entity involved. In Project 880, the billions spent on avatars means saving trillions on workers. Another major difference, nobody promises to give Josh his legs back. In Project 880, the Avatar program itself is the way Josh gets his legs back, by being in a walking Avatar body. There's no promise of future reward for Josh. The program is the reward itself. This is one of the few places where Project 880 doesn't feel like an improvement on Avatar. While 880 really sets up why Earth needs Pandora and why Josh would be happy to get off world, it doesn't offer Josh a reason to ever stop being an Avatar. And so Josh is off to Pandora. All of this is stuff that happens before the first frame of the movie Avatar. But there's still more that's different before Josh gets to Pandora. Coming out of hibernation, Josh is brought in to see the birthing of his Avatar body. It's an intriguing scene because the Avatar is shown to be alive on its own without having its driver plugged in. We're told that the newborn Avatars react better when seeing their driver in the room. The Avatar and driver have spent the entire trip linked psionically. Cameron describes it as formatting a hard drive. If the Avatar is a separate being, is it right for Soli to impose his will on it? A question that mirrors the larger question of whether humans should be imposing their will on Pandora. It's complex and intriguing. Cameron fills the approach to Pandora with tons of jargon and science fact. There are a lot of interesting facts presented, including a description of just why those floating mountains float. It's actually a description that would have been welcome in the film as it ties into unobtainium. In the Scriptment, it's mentioned that unobtainium was the joke name for the metal, which just happened to stick. Unobtainium is a room temperature superconductor, pretty much the only reason the expense of a Pandora trip is worthwhile. It's also what makes up much of the floating mountains. Pandora, while as big as a planet, is a moon of Polyphemus, a huge gas giant with a supermagnetic field. Unobtainium levitates in a high magnetic field, and thus the mountains, which by the way are very holy to the Na'vi. So that is everything in Project 880 Scriptment before we arrive at Pandora, which we will pick up from and cover in the next video breaking down Project 880. Let me know what you guys think of these differences between the two so far, and your overall thoughts on this first part of Project 880. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on my future Avatar videos. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you all in the next video.